It's not
That's
easy to
right.
figure out why there's an explosion in females. Okay,
Right.
so that leads us to another extremely troublesome topic, which is why the explosion in teenage females. Now, you do attempt to explain that in your book, and so maybe you could outline for the listeners exactly what your conclusions were.
Sure, teenage girls are famous for falling for every hysteria, right? We know that the way young women, and there are psychologists who've done wonderful work in this area. Amanda Rose is one of the University of Missouri, who I interviewed. Teenage girls tend to spread these psychic epidemics because their modes of friendship involve co-rumination, taking on their friend's pain. They like to rehash their own pain, and they like to take on their friend's pain. And they are even willing to suspend reality in order to sort of get on the team of their friend. Okay?
So would it be,
friend,
I'm being a real son of a bitch in this interview to some degree, because I've been trying to think up all the objections I possibly could to your perspective because it's so contentious. And so I'm going to put forward things that I'm thinking about that are critiques. And it's not that I'm believing them, but they need to be brought forward. So a skeptic might say that you are relying on stereotypes of feminine behavior in adolescence to justify your claim that it's girls that are susceptible to a kind of hysteria, and that's an outdated and sexist, I suppose, hypothesis.
No, I'm not relying on stereotypes at all. I'm relying on evidence. If you look at the anorexia, it afflicts one population. If you look at bulimia, it afflicts one population, and it grows and it spreads among friend groups, just as this does. It's young women encouraging each other in self-harm. And if you look at cutting, same thing. And clinicians have known for years that you cannot house anorexics together in a hospital ward without being very careful, because they will encourage each other to lose more and more weight. We know that women
right, and you see that online with regards to anorexia, right, with the pro-ana sites and the pro-bulimia sites.
Right. It wasn't men who came up with thinspiration. Now, inspiration to lose more and more weight. It was young women. Now, of course, men get involved in all kinds of, bad behavior and encourage each other in all kinds of bad behavior. But this kind of socially spread self-harm has proven over and over to be endemic to young women.
You can't group antisocial males together when they're teenagers because they get worse. So that's well known. And in fact, if you take antisocial boys and you put them with pro-social boys, the pro-social boys become more antisocial. The antisocial boys don't get better. And that was discovered back in the 1930s in the Somerville study, the detrimental consequences of grouping antisocial boys together. It was the very large-scale study that was designed to, in principle, to reduce the risk of boys at risk for developing criminal behavior and alcoholism and so forth. It was one of the first longitudinal studies. It was a complete failure in that the treatment group, who were subject to all sorts of benevolent, at least in principle, benevolent interventions, did much worse than the control group. And after much painstaking analysis and heart-rending doubt, the study's authors concluded that housing the children together in the summer camps they had put out for them to get them out of the inner city was actually the cause of their increased pathology in adulthood. So it does happen among males. Now, Tumblr is also something that you discuss as a new mode of, perhaps a new medium of social contagion. And as far as I know, that's also a social media forum that's essentially female dominated. Is that correct?
I believe it is still, but though I am not, up to date on the latest, of who looks at Tumblr, but it always has been, yes, right. Predominantly female.